The gang returned to the crossroads at Kamihina.
皆様
Satsuki turned to face the group once they reached the staircase to Shigasa's shrine.
本日はどうもありがとうございました。
She bowed to them.
しばらくここにいるんでしょ？だったらまたいつでも遊べるわよ。そうね。いいたまり場も作ってくれたことだし。はい。
Satsuki beamed.
それでは皆様ごきげんよう。
Satsuki began ascending the stairs after one last bow.
リヒト、送ってやらないのか？
Naru teasingly turned to Ayato. Only to find Karen clinging to her brother's sleeve like a sailor with the rigging in a maelstrom.
やれやれ。
Fucking weirdo. Karen's room. Oh god. Dusk had fallen over New Year's Eve. Karen threw off her kerchief and apron when she finished cleaning her room. She'd been using a feather duster to sweep the dust and refuse off the lintels before gathering them with a broom. Furthermore, she'd also thoroughly scrubbed her carpet clean with a wrung dust cloth. She'd been at it since this morning, leaving her positively bushed now that it was finally over.
お嬢様、終わりましたか？
Yuka Kirimura, the family maid, peeped into Karen's room from the hallway.
ゆかさん、ゴミを捨ててきてくださる？ダメですよ、お嬢様。最後までご自身で掃除を済ませるとオーク様と約束なさったじゃありませんか。もうこのくらいいいじゃない。ゴミ箱が外にあるから出るのが億劫なのでしょ。そうよ。仕方ありませんね。
Yeah, fucking prissy rich bitch. Yuka chuckled and picked up Karen's garbage can.
奥様には内緒にしておきますから、お嬢様はその雑巾を洗って絞っておいてくださいね。
A bucket and filthy dust cloth marred the otherwise immaculate hallway. Karen reluctantly picked up the cloth and soaked it in the bucket. Her fingertips went numb from the frigid midwinter water.
どうしてこんな寒い時期に大掃除なんてするのかしら。
She grumbled even though she knew there was no one listening to her.
夏に大掃除したところで、お前は暑いから嫌だとか言うだろう。
Get her ass.
兄様。
Karen shrieked in a desperate attempt to conceal her embarrassment when she saw her brother sauntering toward her, his voice leaden with exasperation.
兄様はお掃除終えられたのですか？
僕の部屋はもう終わってるよ。父さんも帰ってくるらしいし、早めに切り上げておかないと。
Ayato talked like he hadn't a care in the world.
そういえば、父様はいつ頃帰ってくるのでしたっけ？
夕方には着くらしいけど、まだなのかな。
富山からの道路は狭くて険しいから。
慣れている道だろうし、心配ないと思うよ。
Ayato tousled Karen's hair to assuage her fears.
そうですよね。
His touch was enough to bring Karen peace, weirdo. Even she was chagrined by how easily he could sway her.
お嬢様、ゴミ箱。あ、ありがとう、ゆかさん。
Yuka returned and handed the garbage can to Karen.
なんだ、ゆかさんに手伝ってもらってたのか。
ゴミ捨てだけですよ。
だったら僕だって頼みたかったな。
ダメですよ、綾人様は。ご自身でしっかりなさってくれませんと。
It was virtually impossible to believe Yuka was younger than the siblings, considering how well she had her act together. Her family had attended the Hinagamis as their live-in servants since her mother's time. She always put defending the Hinagami family first and foremost, even when Karen and Ayato were out fooling around. Hence why she outclassed them in every way. That was precisely the reason the twins both called her Miss Kirimura, despite her age and rank. But they don't? I can clearly hear when they talk, they're calling her Yuka-san. They're using san, which is like a respectful honorific, you know, but they're not, from what it sounds like, they're not using her last name.
それでは私は他のところを片付けますので、失礼。
Yuka bowed politely and took her leave of the pair.
僕も他の部屋を掃除するかな。
あ、私も手伝います。
The twins' father, Shizuru, arrived home as the sun was setting. Fortunately, he hadn't gotten them any souvenirs due to how Tokyo was in full-on extravagance is the enemy mode. Ugh, I was really banking on him bringing back a fashion magazine for me and good to go. Worst New Year's present ever. That thought raced through Karen's head as she sat at the sunken hearth. She had already finished dinner. However, she and the others were stuck at the table until her grandfather, Hideyomi, gave the word, as per custom. Ayato sat still like a statue right next to his sister.
しずるよ。
Hideyomi broke his silence.
何でしょうか。
Shizuru glanced over at his father, who was still seated firmly at the head of the table.
東京の様子はどうだ？
難しいですね。翼賛体制になってから街に憲兵の姿が増えましたし、物が売れなくなってきています。
仕事はどうだ？
同じですよ。製薬も政府から制限がかかるようになるのではないかと言われています。
大きな戦争が近い。
そうですね。
The two men of the house were having a complicated discussion. The Hinagamis had made their living off of pharmaceuticals for ages. Though their offices and laboratories were now located in Toyama and Tokyo, many of the settlement's residents still had connections to the pharmaceutical industry. Hinagami Pharmaceuticals could practically be called Hitogata's sole source of external income. As a result, the Hinagami's vast influence reached not just the settlement, but the surrounding areas as well. Though that was still something Karen didn't fully comprehend, despite being a member of that very family.
Karen!
The fuck's Mariko? Oh, grandmother. Karen's grandmother, Mariko, called to her from the kitchen.
何でしょうか、おばあ様。
She took advantage of that opportunity to escape the table and pass through the doorway connecting the living room to the kitchen. Yuka was there, piling New Year's dishes into multi-layered boxes, sitting atop a table in the spacious room.
ゆかを手伝ってくださいな。
わかりましたわ。
Karen joined Yuka and started following the younger girl's example.
ブリの照り焼きはこちらにお願いしますね。ええ。
She placed the food in the designated sections as instructed.
彩りも大切ですから。あ、栗きんとんはこちらです。人参の煮物も入れるの？
Karen grimaced.
当然ですよ。せっかく大奥様が作られたのですから。絶対私が嫌いなの知ってて作ってるわよね。
Karen grumbled when she was sure Mariko was out of earshot.
煮物はおせちには必ず入っているものですよ。
Yuka chuckled as she lined up rows of rolled fish omelets.
しいたけも入ってる。お嬢様は少し好き嫌いを減らした方がいいと思いますよ。
Yeah.
だって
Karen pouted.
かまぼこは好きなんですよね。ええ、そうだけど。はい、どうぞ。
Yuka plucked some kamaboko with her chopsticks and offered it to Karen.
いいの？お重に収まりきりませんでしたから。ありがとう。
Karen popped the red-rimmed kamaboko into her mouth.
大奥様が戻ってこられる前に食べ。うん。わかってるわよ。
The girls resumed working as Karen savored the soft texture.
これは何かしら？
Karen pointed to what resembled a chain of red orbs.
それはチョロギと言うんですよ。なんだか芋虫みたい。確か植物の根のはずですよ。遠慮するわ。
Now that Karen had compared them to caterpillars, she couldn't view them as anything else no matter how hard she tried.
カレン、おそばを持って行ってちょうだい。
あ、はい、わかりました。
Karen carried a tray with soba separated into portions over to the living room.
お待たせいたしました、おじい様。
She served the soba to her family, starting with her grandfather. Yuka came in next, distributing tempura sauce and grated onions across the table. Karen set some soba before her brother. Ayato merely kept a silence.
兄様？
足しびれた。
Her brother whispered into her ear so that the others couldn't hear. Must be because he's been stuck listening to father and grandfather this whole time. Poor Ayato.
触ってもよろしいですか？
Don't touch me at all, you crazy bitch.
絶対にやめてくれ。
Ayato blanched and shook his head.
冗談ですわよ。
Karen chuckled as she finished serving the soba and returned to her spot next to Ayato. Yuka left while Mariko came in to join them. And thus the whole family was present, minus the twins' deceased mother, of course.
揃ったな。
The family quietly listened to the patriarch.
稲上家の息災と人形村の発展を願って。
Though Hitogata was only a tiny settlement, its residents called it a village for generations. The name was supposedly a remnant of how this region had once been a municipality during the age of westernization. However, in time, Hitogata had become independent of other settlements in the area, a fact they were extremely proud of.
いただきます。
Everyone ate their New Year's soba at Shizuru's declaration. No one said so much as a word. The sound of slurping was all that kept the house from being silent as a grave. Since they'd already had dinner and this was more of a New Year's ceremony than anything, there was hardly any soba on the table. Even Karen had finished hers in seconds. Yuka took away the empty soba trays. Karen got up and decided to help her, though in reality it was just an excuse to get away from the suffocating aura radiating off her draconian grandfather. She carried the tableware off to the kitchen, where she found half-eaten New Year's soba on a nearby table.
ゆかさんはお蕎麦を食べていてくださいな。ありがとうございます。
Karen soaked the bowls and soba trays in water-filled wash basin. The water was cold as ice. Karen immediately withdrew her hands and grabbed a hand cloth.
無理はなさらなくても結構ですよ。そうね。
Karen decided best to just take Yuka's advice.
そろそろ年越しでしょうか。
Yuka did the dishes after finishing her soba.
他のところでは除夜の鐘というのがあるらしいけれど、
この辺りにはお寺がありませんからね。
Shiga's shrine was the only religious establishment in this settlement, so Buddhist temples were a completely foreign concept to its residents. It was said that there had been no opportunities to incorporate any other religions with how tight the Hinagamis and Chikases had been. Thanks to that, the settlement was quieter than a church mouse on New Year's. It appeared to be snowing outside.
カレン、そろそろ年が明けるから今に戻れってさ。ゆかさんも。
Ayato entered the kitchen.
はい、かしこまりました。
Yuka wiped her wet hands.
兄様、つまみ食いはいけませんよ。
Karen tried to stop her brother when she saw him reaching for the Chinese artichokes, but he popped one into his mouth before she even got a word out.
少しくらいならいいだろう。
よくありませんよ。それよりもどんな味で。
歯ごたえのある酸っぱい生姜？
Karen couldn't wrap her head around that description. The wall clock chimed when its hands pointed straight up. A new year had arrived.
明けまして。
Shizura immediately bowed to his father.
明けましておめでとうござい。
Aito quickly followed suit.
おめでとうございます。
Karen, Marika, and Yuka likewise paid their respects to him. Hideyomi calmly nodded and rose to his feet.
みんな、これからも精進するように。
And with that, he left the living room. The rest of the family genuflected to exhibit their reverence. Marika followed her husband, shutting the door behind them. Shizuru sighed and raised his head.
毎度のことだが、実の親とはいえ緊張するな。
Karen watched her father grumble as he set his hands on his hips and rotated his sore body.
父様も明けましておめでとうございます。
明けましておめでとうご。
Twins bowed their heads.
ああ、おめでとう。
Shizuru produced 3 small paper bags from the pocket of his sleeve.
少ないが取っておきなさい。
ありがとうございます。
Karen bowed, accepting her New Year's money.
ゆかもまた今年もよろしく頼むよ。
よろしいのですか？
Yuka prostrated herself before taking the bag.
もっともここでは金を使う機会なんてほとんどないだろうけどね。
しっかりと貯金しておきますわ。
僕もそうした方が良さそう。
さて、休むとするか。
おやすみなさいませ、旦那様。
Yuka stood back and watched Shizuru walk away. It was already past midnight. That very thought abruptly struck Karen with an overwhelming wave of drowsiness like a runaway train.
私もそろそろ寝ます。兄様、ゆかさん、今年もよろしくお願いしますわね。
ああ、よろしく。
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Happy New Year, and what has the
明
New
け
Year
ま
brought
しておめで
us?
とう、なおちゃん。
Now he stopped sweeping snow when he heard Nanako.
こんなご時世に何がおめでたいのかわからないけど、今日は休診日だろ。どうしたのさ。
そりゃ新年のご挨拶よ。それとお正月は休館も多いからその準備も兼ねてね。
うちのじいさん、喉に持ち詰まらせないかな。
ダメよ、冗談でもそん。
Nanako glared at Nori and chided him.
ねえなおちゃん、後で初詣に行こっか。
初詣？しぐさ神社に？
ダメかな。
ダメじゃないけど。
I just can't imagine the place suddenly blessing me when I already go there on a regular basis, that's all.
じゃあ少し待っててね。院長先生にご挨拶してくるから。
Nanako entered the clinic. Naoto resumed sweeping once she'd shut the door. Though there hadn't been a lot of snowfall the previous night, it still left a thin blanket of white over the downtrodden snow that had come before. Snow like that was the most dangerous there was. If the hardened snow froze over, people were more likely to slip on the fresh snow atop it. Hence why Naoto was sweeping it with a broom. Nanako had left footprints in her wake. Several other set of footprints created a trail towards Shigasa's shrine.
まあ他に行くところもないだろうからな。
Just then, Nanako emerged from the clinic.
院長先生がひな神にご挨拶してから行きなさいって。
今親父が言ってるはずだけど。
それでもご挨拶は必要でしょ。
まあそうか。
If nothing else, it at least offered me a good chance to invite Rito and Oina along to the shrine.
先生にどうして晴れ着じゃないんだって。
じいさんの言うことは気にしない方がいいよ。
Knowing him, he'd probably only had lecherous thoughts on his mind. Naori and Nanako passed through the gate to the Hinagami estate.
ナオリさんにナナコさん。
They quickly happened across Yuka sweeping the grounds.
明けましておめでとう、ゆかさん。
はい、おめでとうございます。今年もよろしくお願いいたします。
Nanako took the opportunity to exchange greetings as well.
綾人様にご用ですか？
いや、その前に新年の挨拶をしてこいって頼まれたんで。
大旦那様でしたら神社へ参られておりますが。
あれ、今年はひな神が出向く番だったのか。
Hideyome Hinagami and Yoshimitsu Shigasa, the chief priest of Shigasa's shrine, had gotten along like cats and dogs for as long as everyone could remember, each constantly looking for any opportunity they could to one-up the other. That extended to them even disagreeing on who should visit whom on New Year's, forcing Naori's grandfather to step in as a mediator and ask that they take turns. The only reason their antagonism hadn't been taken a truly ugly turn was because both valued their duties to the settlement.
じゃあ、しずるさんは帰ってきてるのかい？
ええ、おりますよ。
Yuka showed Naori and Nanako into the house. The pair were taken to a room in the back where they found Shizuru and Yuzuru locked in the middle of a game of shogi. Shizuru studied the board as he toyed with the captured piece.
待ったはなしだぞ、兄貴。
Meanwhile, Yuzuru appeared to be at absolute peace.
わかってる。
Shizuru didn't take his eye off the board.
ん？治りか。どうした？
It was Yuzuru who first noticed the two newcomers.
年始の挨拶をと思ったんだけど、じゃあ。
おい兄貴、うちの息子たちが挨拶に来たぞ。
ああ、お前たちか。
Shizuru finally looked up.
明けましておめでとうございます。本年もよろしくお願いいたしますと、祖父からことづかってまいりました。
Naori bowed after delivering the message.
明けましておめでとうございます。
明けましておめでとう。
Shizuru took some New Year's money out of his pocket.
このご時世だからあまり派手にはできないが。
兄貴、そう。
Yuzuru tried to stop his brother.
子供じゃないのだし、散財する心配もないだろ。
ありがとうございます。
Not that there was anywhere nearby he could blow it anyway.
沢城さんもどうぞ。
私もですか？
いいから取っておきなさい。
すみません。ありがとうございます。
Nanako graciously pocketed the money.
さて、どこまでやったか。
Shizuru turned back to his shogi game.
勝手に駒を動かすなよ。
そんなことをしなくてもお前には勝てるさ。
言ったな。じゃあ勝ってもらおうか。
失礼します。
Naori, sensing things were getting heated between the brothers, decided to make his exit. He returned to the living room to find Ayato and Karen there.
ああ、なおちゃん、明けましておめでとう。
今年もよろしく。
The friends slash cousins exchanged greetings.
これから初詣に行こうと思うんだけど。
うん。他のみんなは？
どうせ他に行くところもないし、行けばいるんじゃないか？
Naori simply shrugged.
カレンちゃんはどうするの？行きますわよ。きちんとお願いしてこ
Yeah,
なきゃ。
that's fucking weird too.
じゃあ、行くか。
The four scaled the stone staircase, passed through the shrine archway, and made their way down the path to the shrine. Though the place hadn't been particularly dolled up for New Year's, many of the villagers had still come.
グリコに若女将。
Karen called out to her friends as soon as she spotted them.
明けましておめでと
明けましておめでとうございます。
う。やっぱり若女将は着物で来たのね。 まあ普段着だし。あまり派手な格好もできないご時世だからね。でもきちんと着飾りたかったな。
そうなのよね。せっかく可愛い服があっても。
The two fashion junkies griped away.
リヒトだってそう思うでしょ。
Do you think I give a shit?
僕
Ayato reeled with surprise when he was dragged into the conversation.
可愛い服着てる方がいいよね。
ああ、うん。そうじゃないかな。
He gave an uncertain nod.
あんまり興味ないんでしょ。
Fuck no.
そんなことないと思う。
That's not true. Well, probably.
リヒトに聞くことが間違ってるんじゃない？
I'm pretty sure she's doing it for Karen's sake.
でもどう思ってるとか知っておきたいでしょ。
私に言われても。
The fuck do I care about Rito?
ねえ、なおちゃん。
Nanako whispered in Naori's ear.
何？
めぐりちゃんってあやとくんのこと好きなの？
さあ。
He hadn't heard anything of the sort from the horse's mouth, at least.
まあなおちゃんも鈍い方だものね。
Naori knew he couldn't argue with that. He was very much aware of the fact he wasn't good at picking up on subtleties.
別に制服でもいいと思うけどね。
制服だって可愛いわよ。それに毎朝悩むことだってなくなるし。
楽なのは確かですね。
The two guys in the group were left behind by all that girl talk.
参拝してくるか。
そうだね。
The pair continued down the path to the shrine grounds. The shrine proper, which had been built on a leveled mountainside, seemed far too grand for the settlement. Erected by its side was the shrine office where the Shikasa clan
あ
lived.
れ、おまわりさんがいる。
Ayato spotted Takayama out of the corner of his eye.
さやさんと話してるな。
The police officer in question was talking to a woman clad in priestess robes, Saya Shikasa, second and youngest daughter of her clan.
いつも一段の雪かきありがとうございます。
いえ、他にとって当然のことですから。
I love how earlier it's just like, yeah, he has a crush on Saya, but he doesn't really want anyone to know about it. He tries to keep it hush hush. Then it's just like, thank you for shoveling our stairs. Motherfucker sounds like a goddamn horse. Fucking. Way to keep it cool, Takayama. Takayama stood at attention.
あんなおまわりさん見たことないよ。
まあ、惚れてるんだったら仕方ないんじゃないか。
そうなの？
Ayato cocked his head.
俺はそう聞いてるけど。
ふーん。
Honey, could have sworn he did. Is he just as bad at me as picking up on those subtleties? Ayato made a noise when he looked toward the shrine's hall of worship. Curious, Naori turned that way as well. Satsuki was there. She was striding toward the shrine office alongside Chief Priest Yoshimitsu, probably on her way back from saying her prayers. The reason Ayato didn't go up to her was likely because his grandfather was accompanying her as well.
挨拶してくればいいじゃないか。
Naruto gave Ayato a push on the back.
いや、いいよ。
Ayato shook his head.
新年の挨拶くらい。
そうだけど。
However, Satsuki and her companions disappeared into the shrine office before Ayato reached a decision.
もう手遅れだから、お参りしていこう。
Ayato hustled off through the hall of worship, leaving only those words behind.
リヒト、どうしたの？
You and the other girls finally caught up with Naori just then.
さあ、なんか叶えたい願いでもあるんじゃないか？
Naori played dumb.
願い。
You looked up at the shrine.
ここの神社は願いを叶えてくれる神様を祀っているのよね。
しぐさ神社に祭祀されているのはヒンナ様という民族神だけど、誰の願いでも叶えるというわけじゃなかったはずだぞ。
あ、聞いたことある。ひな神家だけに恩恵をもたらすとか。そうなの？
Of course, that perks Karen right up. She's like, oh, my wish is a guarantee. Oh, fuck yes.
正確には違いますよ。
お、ケンセイさん。明けましておめで。
The gang was approached by Kensei, the senior priest.
ねえ、皆さん、明けましておめでとうございます。
Kensei bowed his head.
先ほどのお話ですが、ヒンナ様は決してひな神家だけにご利益をもたらすわけではありません。
他の人にもご利益はあるのですか？
もちろん、ここで願えば恩恵は得られると思いますよ。まあ、よその神社並みにですけど。
Kensei smiled. Is that really the sort of thing a priest should be so upfront about?
ひな神家の繁栄が約束されれば、 それは村全体の繁栄にもつながりますからね。
現に今はそうなっていますものね。
Nanako nodded to herself.
それにヒンナ様を祀っていいのはひな神家だけですよ。ここはそのお手伝いをしているに過ぎません。
うちの神棚に祀られているのがヒンナ様なのですか？
Karen looked curious.
ええ、そうなりますね。こちらには仕草家とひな神家の祖神が祀られているんですよ。
難しくてよくわからないわ。
Megure groused.
そう難しく考える必要はありませんよ。村の守り神、そう思っていてくだされば。
Kensei laughed while laughing.
でもヒンナ様はたたり神だとも言われているのよね。
You waited until Kensei was out of earshot before asking that question.
何話してたんだい？
Hey guys, what are you talking about? You want to talk about it out loud? Ayato returned at that exact moment.
いや、別に。
まだだよ。みんなを待ってた。
それじゃあ、みんなでお参りしていくか。
Everyone lined up in front of the offertory, sure. Box rarely brought out in public apart from days such as this and the festival in March.
お賽銭っていくらぐらいがいいのでしょう？
All of it.
僕は5銭でいいと思うけど。
Ayato took out a nickel coin with a hole through the middle.
1円とか入れないのか？
それじゃお年玉全額じゃないか。
あ、いいな。リヒトはお年玉もらえたんだ。
どうせ使うあてもないお金ですわ。
Karen produced a yellow 10-cent coin and tossed it into the offertory box. Everyone did the same, one after another, before saying their prayers. Naori followed suit. No particular wish came to mind, however.
みんなでおみくじを引いていかない？
It was Nanako, the eldest of them all, who made that suggestion.
いいですね、それ。
Karen made a beeline for the fortune slip stall beside the shrine office.
私あんまりいい結果出たことないんだよね。
悪い結果の時は木に結んで忘れちゃうのが一番よ。
The rest of the gang followed Karen.
皆様、明けましておめでとうございます。
Mia, Kensei's wife, was there to greet them all.
おめでとうございます。おみくじを引いてもよろしいですか？ええ、どうぞ。
Karen promptly picked up a tube with sticks in it and flipped it over.
13番、13番。
She checked the numbers on the drawers.
私は29番か。
7番はここね。
Gang read off the lots they'd found in their respective drawers.
末吉か。おひなはどう？
Yeah, you'll have good luck.
中吉。まあまあですけど。
どうしたの？
その恋愛運が。
In romance. See, that's what weirds me out. That's what weirds me out, right? Because there's very clearly some, like, you have a much deeper attachment to someone than you should. Talking about romance. You gross little bitch.
なになに？諦めよ。いや、
は
これだけ？
Get her ass! Get her ass, God! Get her ass! Roast that little shit, God! Show her what's good! Give up! Or you'll have medium luck, but when it comes to romance, I know what you're thinking, girl, and you need to stop that. You need to knock that off.
別に相手もいないんだし構わないんじゃない？
Yeah, dumbass.
待ち人は近くにはいないだって。
Ha!
将来に期待しなさいってことかしらね。
Get fucked, you weird little dork.
近くて遠い存在とかはダメかしら。
No, it means quit trying to fuck your brother, you nasty little shit.
ダメじゃないかしら。
Ayato had been rendered speechless.
どうした？
Now he checked Ayato's slip.
うわ、
Does that translate to you're gonna die? Top of the lot read, grave misfortune.
初めて見た。
初めて引いた。
Even all of his individual fortunes were rewarded negatively.
でも恋愛についてはいいこと書いてあるわよ。
Listen, life's gonna be shit for you, dude, but hey, you might be able to get your rocks off at some point.
そんなところだけ良くても
なんて書いてあるの？
Yeah, Megan, he's like, what does the romance say, huh? I mean, I'm just curious, just asking as a home. I'm just curious, like, what does it say? What does it say, though? Megan took a look.
運命の出会いありだって。もう出会ってるのかまだなのか。
どっちだっていいよ、そんなの。
Ayato went to go tie off his lot.
照れてるのかな。知りません。
Megan and Karen followed Ayato.
なおちゃんはどう？私は吉だったけど。
俺は小吉だよ。書いてる内容も無難なことばかり。ナナコは？
大吉よ。今年は何か
Major
いい
luck.
こと
Oh,
あ
you
るか
go,
な。
girl.
じいさんが尻を触らなくなればいいな。
それだけで運を使い果たすのは。
Nanako went straight back to the Kuroya clinic while Naori returned to Hinagami estate with Ayato and Karen.
まだ親父はいるみたいだな。
Naori noticed his father's shoes by the entrance.
まさかまだ将棋を指してるなんてことはないよな。
さすがにないだろうね。もうずいぶん時間が経ってるし、二人でお酒でも飲んでいる
Maybe
んじゃ
your
ない？
father killed Ayato's father. That sounds like it'd be a grave misfortune for one, for sure. Well, considering he's like the big guy. However, it turned out Naori was sorely mistaken. Nope, still locked in some heated shogi. His father and uncle were still glaring at the shogi board. Both sides had only a few pieces left. However, that was precisely what made it so difficult to mount an offense.
どっちが有利なんだ？
Naori asked Ayato in a hushed voice.
うちの親父かな。飛車角全部持ってるし。
Shizura moved to Silver General until it was diagonally facing Yuzura's king.
大手だ。
言われなくても分かってる。
Yuzura was about to grab his gold general, stationed above Shizura's silver general, but then stopped. Naori only knew how the pieces moved. He wasn't very familiar with Shogi's strategy.
あの銀は取っちゃダメなのか？
飛車がいるからね。王で取っても角が狙ってる。
ごちゃごちゃうるさいぞ。
Yuzura glared at his son and nephew.
外野にイチャモンをつけるなよ。
Shizura's confident grin never wavered. Yuzura moved his king up diagonally in the opposite direction of Shizura's silver general. Shizura's rook took Yuzura's gold general and was promoted. But it wasn't checkmate.
甘いな。
Yuzura moved his knight and took the pawn in front of Shizura's king, promoting his own piece in the process.
大手だぞ。
うるさい。
Even if he took Yuzura's promoted knight, he still had his brother's lance in the rear to worry about. Shizura jumped the knight in his territory over his king and took Yuzura's promoted knight. Yuzura immediately moved a pawn in front of that knight. Shizura declared check using the captured knight. Yuzura's king fled right in front of the knight.
いつ終わるんだろうな。
Naori had considered going home with his father since he was still around, but at this rate he'd be stuck here for a week.
もうすぐじゃないかな。
Ayato pointed to a part of the board. Shizura's promoted rook took a pawn and positioned itself diagonally downward from Yuzura's king. The promoted rook was in the path of the knight, and behind the knight was a pawn, while lance still in its starting position was targeting the promoted rook on the other side.
積んだな。
くそー。
Yuzura flopped onto the floor in defeat.
いいところまで攻めていたんだがな。
最初の油断が命取りだったな。
Shizura's lips curled to a shit-eating grin.
ま、ずいぶん強くなったんじゃないか？
うるせえよ。
Yuzura cursed his brother.
帰ろう、親父。
Now that the match had finally come to an end, Naori seized the opportunity to get his dad out of there.
ナオリも本格的に覚えてみるか。
俺はいいよ。
Man just wants a shogi opponent he can beat. Satsuki sat on the floor cushion at the head of the table. The leaders of the settlement were all assembled before her. However, none of them so much as glanced her way. Instead, they were all facing each other.
ひな神の
God
挨
damn.
拶の向上はどうした？
Yoshimitsu, the chief priest, accosted the man sitting opposite him, Hideyomi Hinagami.
新年誠におめでとうございます。
It sounded as though Hideyomi was being held at gunpoint. Satsuki didn't know much about the Hinagami family patriarch. However, she could tell those two clearly didn't get along.
堅苦しいことは抜きにしましょう。
Yoshimitsu's wife, Ryoko, got between the pair.
さあ、あなたも。
分かっている。
Hitomi nodded at his wife's intervention. Ryoko and Mariko were sisters, which made the two men brothers-in-law, yet they never saw each other outside formal events. Needless to say, it was agonizing for Satsuki to have to sit at the head of the table amidst this powder keg. She wasn't allowed to speak or relax in a more comfortable pose, only to sit on her knees in absolute silence. Ryoko brought out a bottle of sake.
さあどうぞ。
Meanwhile, Mariko served square wooden cups. The two men snorted as their cups were filled. They then started drinking without even bothering to give a toast of any sort. Satsuki would have given anything to be anywhere else at the moment.
今年の祭りは
Hitomi glanced at Satsuki.
そのつもりだ。
何年ぶりだろうかな。
Hitomi drank from his cup.
昭和の御代になってからは初めてだな。
もうそんなになるか。
Satsuki had been kept in the dark about the past.
さあどうぞ。
Ryoko refilled the men's empty cups.
ならばこちらも準備をせねばならんな。
それは任せる。
Pared down one cup of sake after the next. Much as Satsuki would have liked to ask what they were talking about, she had no choice but to sit there in absolute silence as though she were not but a statue for display. Fun.
ナオリ、いるか？
Yuzuru peeked into his son's room.
何親父。
Naoto put a bookmark in a classic foreign novel he was reading.
そろそろ親戚の子らが来るはずだから迎えに行ってくれないか？
そっか。
He set his book aside and rose to his feet.
前ヒンナで待っていればいいかな。
タクシーで来るそうだから。
わかったよ。
Naoto put on a scarf and left the house. In the current weather, it wouldn't take terribly long for a car to get to Hitogata from the foot of the mountain. Still, it was a half a day's trip from Toyama City all the same. Given it was currently afternoon, that meant they must have left first thing in the morning. Naoto wondered if they'd taken the night train from Tokyo, or if they'd arrived in Toyama the day before and spent the night there. That wasn't all he didn't know. That wasn't all he didn't know, however. Oh, I see. That wasn't all he didn't know, however. He still had no idea what his cousins were like. All he'd been told was that they were a boy and a girl, and that they were his aunt's children. That said, he wasn't worried about finding them. Hitogata almost never got any visitors, so he knew he'd be able to pick them out in a second. Naoto traversed the road that divided Hitogata into west and east until he arrived at the branch office in Manihina. There were several ridges on one needed to cross to get to the settlement from the heart of the village. Hence why the town hall had a branch office here. But since government facilities were rarely needed in these parts, there were only a handful of people stationed here. One of them, an elderly man named Saizuko Kuki, was out shoveling snow in front of the office, only to stop when he noticed Naori.
Oh, 黒屋の若いの。
こんにちは。
Naori bowed.
うちに来る予定の客、まだ来ていませんか？
客かい？いや、今日はまだ誰も来ちゃいねえよ。
Lack of tire tracks on the road before them sported Saizo's claim. No one in the village owned an automobile. The only exception was Shizuru, who took a car back and forth from Toyama. As a result, the settlement's roads hadn't been rebuilt for cars. Any vehicles could go no further than Maihina.
中で待ってくかい。チャークレーは出すぞ。
いえ、お構いなく。
Naoto politely turned him down. Accepting Saizo's offer would have meant having a chat with him over tea. Naoto honestly wasn't in the mood for that. Waiting outside with his nose in a book was more his style. Thus, Naoto swept the snow from the bus stop bench and took out his book. But just then, he heard a car engine approaching. He looked up to find a black sedan coming down the mountain road. That must be them. Naoto closed his book and prepared to welcome guests. The car drew closer and closer in the meantime, revealing itself to be a taxi. Eventually, it stopped in front of the branch office, spewing black smoke all the while. A bespectacled boy around Naoto's age emerged from the back seat.
黒屋さんですか?
The boy turned to Naoto when he approached, head cocked quizzically.
ええ、黒谷直りです。
お世話になります。東京から来た朽木文也です。それとこっちが。
Fumiya trailed off and helped a girl out of the taxi.
朽木千鶴と申します。これからしばらくの間。
黒谷直りです。こちらこそよろしく。
Great. Now we got 2 brother fuckers in this goddamn village. Well, I mean, Karen's not a brother fucker yet. She's a wannabe brother fucker. She wants to be in that position. And I'm sure there's several other positions she wants to be in. They all bow to one another.
申し訳ありませんが、ここから先、車は入れませんので、歩きになります。
ええ、運転手さんに伺っていますよ。
Fumiya picked up a large bag.
あ、持ちましょうか。
Now to imagine it'd be hell for a city boy to navigate these snowy roads while lugging around such a huge bag. Especially considering they'd expressly come in hopes of improving their health.
すみません。お願いします。
Fumiya gratefully passed his bag to Naori. It was indeed just as heavy as it looked.
では、こちらへどうぞ。
はい。さあ、千鶴。
Chizuru was a rather willowy girl. She held close to Fumiya, perhaps because she was cold. Naori imagined Fumiya had tagged along solely to oversee his sister's recovery.
こちらへはいつ頃まで滞在の予定ですか？
春までの予定です。もっとも東京の状況によってはもうしばらくご厄介になるかもしれませんが、
やはり欧米との全面戦争は近いんですか？
僕はまだ学生ですからよくわかりませんが、シナでの戦争も長引いていますからね。
お米なども満足に買えなくなっていますから。
まあこの辺りではまだそういったこともありませんから心配ありませんよ。
Now to elaborate on the sights along the way as the 3 headed for the clinic.
へえ、朽木さんの家も病院なんですか？
フミヤで結構ですよ。うちは病院といっても軍の研究所のような状況ですけれど。
なるほど。
Naori nodded and opened the door.
どうぞ中へ。
すみません。失礼します。
The siblings were led to the guest room. Fumiya sighed and sat down, clearly exhausted from the walk.
家の方にご挨拶をさせていただきたいのですが。
祖父と父でしたら医院の方にいますから。
いえ、こちらから出向くのが筋でしょうし。兄さん。
ああ、そうだね。
まあここの村には何もないが、好きなだけゆっくりしていきなさい。
ありがとうございます、おじい様。
これからしばらくの間。
So, and I keep reading his name is So. So and the Kachikis introduced themselves.
何か希望などがあったら遠慮なく言ってくれ。女性のことであれば沢城くんに頼んでくれたまえ。
よろしくお願いしますね。はい、こちらこそよろしくお願い。
療養には気分転換が一番だからな。ま、わしにとっての一番の薬はな。
じゃあ家の中を案内するから。
Nanako ignored So's quip as if he wasn't even there.
じいさん、七子にちょっかいかけるのもそろそろやめにしておいた方がいいんじゃないか？
なんだな俺、焼いとるのか？
そんなんじゃないって。